Trying to. It was me too. Yeah, I have to be it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 18th, 2025 Governance Committee meeting. Calling the meeting to order at 9:01. We will start with roll call. Dr. Moses, do you mind taking roll?
Yes, thank you. President Reckler,
Yes, good morning.
Trustee Smith-Folds. Good morning, everyone. Present.
And Trustee Smith Foltz is sitting in for Trustee Gonzalez Foy, who was unavailable today. A note to the people here and also to those in the audience, my hearing aid apparatus is not working, so if people would enunciate clearly, I would deeply appreciate it. And if you hear me saying what number of times, that's the reason why. Okay, we're up to number 2, land, labor, and body acknowledgement. We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Chochenyo, Muwekma, Parkin, Ohlone peoples and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. Labor and body recognition. I acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systemic injustice falls upon the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. I remember that Black and brown people were born and died working this land against their will for generations. I acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, traffic force, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. Author, Dr. Rochelle Rogers Ard. We're up to number 2, items for discussion and action. We'll take public comment after or discussion on each of these. And this should really be short. The purpose of this is really just to gather feedback from Wednesday's meeting of any board comments into policies and hopefully bring them forward for August 6th so that we're ready to go for the start of the year. Number 1 is immigration policies review. The first one is 5145.13, response to immigration enforcement. This was reviewed at the Wednesday board meeting, and the comments that were received were from Trustee Hernandez, who submitted some ideas for additions to 5145.13 that the district ensures, ensures that the district provides annual reminders to families, especially at the start of the year, about the importance of having an emergency plan in case a parent is detained or deported. This should include guidance on updating emergency contacts, identifying a trusted caregiver, and securing key documents with resources available in multiple languages. The district shall provide annual outreach to families, particularly at the start of each school year, encouraging them to create or update a family emergency plan in the event of detention or deportation. The outreach shall include information on how to update student emergency contact forms at any time during the school year, instructions on how to designate a trusted adult or caregiver using a caregiver's authorization affidavit, guidance on storing and safeguarding important documents such as birth certificates, medical information, and identification records, and multilingual resources and staff support to help families understand their rights and navigate emergency planning. The district shall ensure that this communication is provided in families' primary languages and distributed through multiple channels, including but not limited to back-to-school packets, school websites, and parent information. At the meeting, Dr. Moses suggested it go into an administrative regulation. And I did a little bit of research just on what was out there in our policies already. And we do have some little mentions about emergency contact, keeping emergency information contact updated. You know, I'm not the, I did a brief search. I didn't search everything. But it does seem that you're accurate, that it should be an AR, because there's no body that already, you know, like spells all this out in a comprehensive way. And so I mean, personally, I think this is a good idea, and I'd like your feedback on whether we can and should, or
Can I ask you a question before you get feedback?
Sure.
I have a question. At most sites, there's a pathway to, let's say, a child doesn't get picked up, right? Mom or dad fell asleep or something happened, there's second chapter, whatever, the kid is there for a certain amount of time after school.
Yeah.
There's certain steps that administrators take. They call the couple of people on the emergency card, they do whatever. But there is a point, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a point where you have to call an authority figure. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is our protocol. Usually we try, like you said, all of the emergency contacts. Biggest worry is, there's something that's happened to the family. But after a certain point, every school probably has a different point, but for us, it was, 6 o'clock and after school program's about to end, then we had to call law enforcement to support us since we cannot transport students.
Does that change, or is that something that should be different in this situation if we're talking about immigration, right? Do we want to contact law enforcement, or do we still have to contact law enforcement? Is that something that we have thought about? Is there an alternative path? Do you contact someone else? And I think, is my question clear? Like, what if we're trying to insulate kids from, not saying that we call like this type of law enforcement, but how do we know that eventually these law enforcement won't be entangled? Right, the local police with another contact, if you are calling and the person's last name happens to be stereotyped as someone who may have a certain ethnicity that then will flag something. Do we have have we thought that far ahead, or is it something that we're gonna have to revisit if that happens? If the two agencies become entangled, then we have to then come back and revisit that.
So let me take that on because it's actually two separate things. We don't really have a choice if we aren't able to find a responsible party. When and it rarely gets that far.
Yeah.
I mean, in 30 years in education, I've only known of it needing to happen at one of my schools one time. So when school closes, somebody has to be responsible for the child. The principal can't take the child home. So if I've stayed until 8 o'clock so that I wouldn't have to make the call. But nobody can remove the child from the school if they aren't authorized to. And so therefore, if you're pushed into a situation where you really haven't been able to reach anybody, you have to call an authority. And the ed code says that authority is law enforcement. So I don't know that there's anything we can do about that. But that's why this is so important in an AR, and it's a very rare occurrence.
Yeah.
Could we change our form to where we have 3 lines on there, right? I think it's, if I remember filling out the emergency form correct, there's like, the 3 contacts. Who are your 3 contacts outside of the other parent that's on that line, right? Is there, and this may be costly, but is there a way to change the form to where then you have 3 other, like, then it's a total of 6 people instead of 3 people? There's just a thought in my head because I'm not sure that we give enough contacts for people to call. Is there a way that parents can add more contacts? Like they instead of changing the form, they can say, here are 3 additional people that you are able to contact. Cause we do put siblings on there, right?
Yeah,
Like you have a sibling in the high school or middle school or whatever. But if you go through all of these contacts, these are 3 people that I'm still saying are okay for it to pick up my child, or is that too much on the administrator or the site secretary or whoever makes those phone calls?
Yeah, so I think that that's a good idea. I'm enunciating because I remember you said you. Okay, I think that that's a good idea, but what we've done, because that is also sometimes people want to add more, is they attach a second emergency card with
Okay.
additional names.
Okay,
So when we have large families and they want more than 3, we just attach a second card with additional contacts.
is there a way that we can verbalize that in these,
In the air.
or just in the, like, when we hand an emergency card, if you want to add more people, here's a second card that you can do, or just, even if it's just verbal, right?
Yeah.
Because I think most people just think they can get 1 card. I didn't know you could have 2 cards.
Yeah, we just.
But I am on several people's emergency card, but I'm like, yo, put me on that second card instead of that first card, so I don't wanna
Yeah.
get the initial phone call.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, certainly. We can update our student parent handbook to include that language.
Yeah,
that
just
they
make
can-
it clear that they are not limited in the number of emergency
Exactly.
contacts that they can share.
okay, thank
Okay.
you. I'm
That's a good
complete.
thing to add. And so to answer your question, or to answer your inquiry, President Reckler, the cabinet talked about this on yesterday. And we had had some discussions about this previously, and I believe Catherine has prepared something to share in terms of how we can address the requested information in the AR.
Mhm.
Yes, you want to go ahead, Catherine?
Yeah, sure. So and I actually prepared a couple of things. I was thinking if we did want to proceed to include the language in the policy, we could do so. And so I had some, language if we wanted to consider to add at the bottom, to 8E, where it says, in addition, so after what is suggested, in addition, the district provides annual guidance and reminders to family on how to prepare emergency family preparedness plans in the event of an immigration-related disruption. Schools are instructed to encourage families to update their emergency cards and contact information each year to ensure timely communication and ensure student safety. So if we did want to include that in the policy, we could include that in the policy. And when thinking about, I didn't actually prepare the AR itself, but I thought that one of the things that we talked about is we do a really wide communication about doing our annual forms, but online, right?
Mhm.
And many principals, not all, also have, it sounds like we both did, also the written emergency cards, just in the event of an outage, or you can include additional information. And so that the AR for our school sites, we continue to encourage both the online annual form update as well as the written emergency card update. And we could include all of that information in the student handbook and add the added suggestion that there isn't a limit to it, that you can add as many, including additional personal plans, as trustee Fernandez suggested, in the event of an immigration incident.
The other thing we lifted up in cabinet is we prepared several documents last year as this rolled out.
Yeah.
And one of them is a parent brochure
Yes.
that actually outlines all of the safety measures that we'll take. And one of the things that's thoroughly explained in there is the need for emergency contacts. So we had talked about adding a link to that brochure in the AR as well, once it's created,
And to the handbook.
and to the handbook.
And this is something you'll review with principals at the management meeting or the first principal meeting, that this is an administrative regulation? Like, do you go over the new ARs with principals in those moments?
That is our plan.
Okay.
And so once we have direction on how to proceed, then we would want to leverage, probably for this topic, the all managers meeting, and then the ones that are school specific for students with our site leaders. And that would happen at our management advance, August 4th and 5th.
And just for clarity and connectedness, our family handbook, the parent-student handbook, that is where all the regulations are laid out.
Yeah.
So, the purpose of the ARs, in the board book is so that the board, the policy manual also includes our regulations, but that's where they live for parents, so that we're not giving them official regulation documents.
Do we still get those parent handbooks that we're supposed to sign? And
You don't get them in paper copy, but you get them electronically.
And they're a part of the annual forms. You have to sign the annual form to say that you received the handbook, or you
handbook.
have access to the handbook.
You received.
Yeah. But you know, if we wanted to, go back to printing those and distributing them, I mean, we have the means to do that. We just have been saving paper. But if we feel like, you know, we need to make some available for sites, we can print some and have them available for principals to distribute as needed.
But I think it's like the uniform complaint, right? There's a couple of them on site and then they get
Available,
print, you know,
yeah.
I think that just having a couple on site, just as a reference, here, let me show you where this is.
Yeah.
So you don't get on the computer to look through it. I think the handbook is,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's
Absolutely.
worth having,
Still saves paper as well.
or having 5 at a site or something like that. or 10.
In my communication with the communications department, they did say, and I don't know where it is in the handbook, that there is a process for families who wanted to request a printed copy. So we could go either way with that request if you wanted printed, or providing a few for each school site to have available.
I have it in my signature. I link what I'm reading is the parent and student handbook. Because the number of times parents come to me and I'm like, "Well, let me show you where this is, or let me show you this very helpful document that has all of your, you know, and it's fairly comprehensive, so it's,
It is.
you know, there's a lot in there.
We're currently updating it right now.
Yeah, it needs to get updated every year. I mean, things change every year.
Yeah.
So the one comment I was gonna make, or a couple of comments on, trustee Hernandez's suggestions is that it does, you know, this does go in the, parent handbook. The other, comments I had was that on the caregiver's authorization, affidavit, if you go to Contra Costa County Superior Courts, you can link to their caregiver affidavit if you want to do that. If you go to, I believe it's Sacramento or San Diego, I'm not able to recall right now, you can get the Spanish version of that, so you can link to those forms. Also, in terms of emergency planning, you can link to California State's disaster planning site. That's also in Spanish. Honestly, I wouldn't link to anything from the federal government because, like, is FEMA going away? I mean, like, you know, I think California actually is probably more stable than federal government in terms of website access. So those were a couple of things that I thought about. And, I'll give you her email so that you know what she's specifically looking for. And then in the policy, so are we complete on the AR and can I come back to the policy? So in the policy, there is a small difference in the wording in what went in this agenda versus what was on Wednesday's agenda. And what the difference is that on Wednesday, it said that administrators are going to receive annual training. In the one that was printed today, it just says training.
Yeah.
So do you have a preference on annual or just training?
I like keeping annual in there, especially for now with the current climate. Because as staff turns around, as we have turnover, we can't be certain that everybody received the training if we aren't revisiting it annually. So I'm not opposed to that. What about you, Kat?
No, I think that holds us to the responsibility of ensuring that our new administrators are trained, so annual feels appropriate.
Okay, so when we bring it back, we'll bring back the annual with your little sentence that leads into the AR.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question though? What happens with the teacher that comes in mid-year? Is there something that in the specific, you know, when you're a new teacher, you get, the principal gives you that the little binder, right? It says, this is how you do your attendance, this is when our faculty meetings are, this is when that. Is a sheet or a page gonna be in there about the specific, these are our what to do's, this is our one page, or these are our bullet points? Or does that teacher just have to A, rely on what other teachers do, or B, wait to the annual training that comes back up? Is there a way that we can close the gap? We have an annual training, but we also encourage principals to put a one pager in their new teacher handbook or new teacher binder that they give them. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do
Yeah.
we, if I'm a midway through teacher, how do I get this information? Is this gonna be for our long-term subs as well? Is this gonna be for when subs get their sub package, because they may be there 3 days and something may pop off on day 2? How do they know the policy, procedure, or AR?
So the policies, managed and monitored by administrators only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so teachers need to know that it exists, but they aren't the implementers, so,
So the training goes to the administrators,
Yeah.
not to the teachers?
yes.
Okay, thank you. That's enough for that. I got that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But there was an email that came in also very lengthy about some really good ideas about starting off the school year and how to protect families and things like that. What does front office staff do?
Huh?
So that is, do they know? your secretary, your typist who is
Mhm.
receiving gas.
Your attendance
Um,
clerk, all sit in the front office in elementary schools.
Yeah, so thanks for lifting that up. I was thinking as we were talking about the annual and the training expectation, where this would live so that somebody owns it and is responsible for making sure the annual training is in place. And I think that would be our safety officer. We have added this to our crisis response.
Mhm.
And so I think that this will be tasked to Michael Booker and I lost my train of thought. I
So
was-
does Booker have categories of people that he's gonna train?
Oh,
in?
and so as Booker is going through his training modules, he trains many different groups. I think we need to make sure that he attends one of Kim Chamberlain's group
Yeah.
meetings where she meets monthly with office managers and secretaries. And so I believe that we need to put as a part of the AR that we have our safety officer to train not only principals, but also attend that office manager, secretary initial meeting at the beginning of the year to train them as well.
And then the other question I have, there's immigration, training through Keenan. And that should probably get updated as well with this, with, some of this. And Teamsters does Keenan too, right? Yes. Everyone, okay. Okay.
And have you, their current module you believe needs updates? I haven't seen the current one.
It's the immigration, there is immigration module. Now, it's been a number of months since I looked at it, but I did screen it as we were having these discussions, and I do think there are some minor tweaks. It's good. I mean, it does, to the best of my knowledge, it does mirror, everything that we have, so, somebody may need, how does that happen?
So you just gave me a great idea, and I think we need to make sure we make this happen. So with the Keenan modules, we can use their prepared modules, and we can also create our own. So in Keenan, you'll often see WCC USD policies where it's required that staff review them as a part of the Keenan trainings, but they're created by us.
Okay.
So we could put our immigration, response to immigration AR as a Keenan, as a specified
Yeah.
Keenan model, and it would be on the everybody list.
Yeah. okay.
That way we would hold everybody accountable for taking a look at it. I think
Okay.
that's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
And then that way every
Everybody
staff member
gets it.
gets it.
Can I just addendum, when you are creating your Keenan module, can you create one around anti-slur policy and anti-racism policy when it gets rolling, like when it gets to that point?
Sure.
As long as we have an AR.
Yeah,
Because we need an AR,
Yeah, we could do
currently we
that.
don't, yeah.
we don't have an AR thing.
Yeah, we could train them on, we want our ARs implemented successfully, and that's an avenue I hadn't thought about before you lifted it up, but those that are critical and a focus of the district and the board, we could absolutely add them.
It's a great idea. Yeah. And then
That one's
just,
gonna be a little bit more sticky though.
yeah,
We'll talk about it when we get to that AR. This one's more
Yeah, I think about that every
process.
day.
That one is,
Mhm.
it's more,
Yeah,
people interpret it differently.
yeah.
Mhm.
You don't interpret immigration action. You don't have to interpret it. It's something that is happening. So, but we'll get there.
Mhm. To clarify, for the caregiver authorization affidavit link is a suggestion that we added to the parent-student handbook and how it's described in that.
I don't think it's a bad idea. And disaster planning through California.gov, I actually just wrote down, like, put little notes here on where I found things. I don't think it's a bad idea. As long as we're not telling people to fill it out, or, as long as we're saying, here is some guidance.
Parents have the option to.
You have the option to, these are things that maybe you should investigate.
Gotcha.
But I don't think it hurts. And as long as they're from respected links like the court system,
Yeah,
um,
that
you
makes
know,
sense. Thank you for that.
I think that's
Shouldn't, but
fine.
it does.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's right.
is there any further discussion, and we're clear what will come back for August 6th?
No, we're clear.
And is there public comment?
Little clarity.
Oh, okay.
So, we're happy to share on August sixth, but one of the things that we were, our policy for ARs is different from our policy for board, I'm sorry. Our process for ARs is different from our process for board policy. So typically ARs don't come
know.
before the board.
Yeah,
So, would you want us to bring that forward for informational purposes, just to show that we've satisfied the request? Or would you like us to share that in a Friday memo? Well, we don't have Friday memos this summer, but how would you like us to share with the board the corrections?
I'm not sure what's on the August sixth agenda, but since we're rolling into the school year with a hot topic,
Mhm.
I don't think it's a bad idea to have eyes on it.
Okay, so just attach it with the policy that's being approved. Is that,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
all right, that's
Um,
great.
And trustee Hernandez and clerk Kenyatta may have other suggestions on what to,
We'll
include
add to
or-
the AR. Yeah.
yeah.
Just want to make sure the discussion, because the AR doesn't need approval, it shouldn't prevent the policy from going
No,
forward.
not at all.
Yeah, so just, that was the
Yeah.
distinction we wanted to make.
Also think you need to make it clear to the board what role they have in ARs versus what role they have in policy. Right? Because if there's a litany of suggestions that ARs that you as staff know, who all have been principals, that this is, it cannot be implemented to the degree or the fidelity that you want. Let's see if we can shift it to, or let it fall under the umbrella of, because I think that if you don't give that instruction navigational process, then you're gonna have a lot of things, because the board sets a vision. You do the implementation. The vision is a lot broader than the actual implementation. So I don't want us to set the board up for an idea that they have operational control, because they don't. They have vision control. The vision is keep our students safe. Go implement that, right? The vision is ensure that our students from all walks of life or whatever, implement that. But I think if it's the other way around, then you're gonna get a lot of, every morning principals need to, and that may just not be possible. And then that becomes an evaluated tool, and then the board's like, well, you didn't do what we said, blah, blah, blah. So just clarity around that.
I don't think it's a bad training exercise. This is what you're telling us to do. This is what we're doing. You're telling us to take an additional step and ensure the safety of families. This is, this is where you are, this is where we are.
I just want to lift that up as maybe something, I know you have an upcoming retreat. Our newly elected board members have been asking for that guidance.
Oh, okay.
What
And
is
that
it
should
that
happen in a
we, yeah,
retreat.
because, there is a current practice of,
Putting your hands in everything.
sending directives to staff. And that, yeah, it just needs to be clear what is under the purview and what needs to go through the superintendent.
It's a training that we had several years ago in 2020, when it was like operational versus the vision.
Yeah,
The board sets the vision, the district operates and implements that, but it hasn't been said yet. And because we have a new board, it needs to be said and practiced. Here's a practice. Let's start with the immigration policy. This is what we want as a board and what we said, the vision as a board. This is how the district is implementing that.
Okay, so I'm gonna send this to you. These were her ideas, and here's where I found some links that may be helpful to you. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just-
Thank you for the resource. Thank you for the resource. And I apologize, just for my clarity, did we want to include that in the policy language? Or did we just want to include that in the AR? The suggestion of the annual updates?
I'd say both.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it should be like the board tasks the superintendent with the creation of
An annual training, that's exactly what we're talking about. Like the board says, we want our administrators trained annually on the immigration policy.
Mhm.
And then y'all figure out how to do it. Or
Yeah,
where it
that's already
lands, or if
in
it's with
there.
Booker, or if it's with whoever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the piece about the prepare emergency family preparedness plans in the event. Schools are instructed to encourage families to update their
right, so we could say the board,
emergency
let me think
plan
about this for a
or
minute.
part.
The board, through an administrative regulation, the board tasks the superintendent with, parent, guardian, student and community provides, links or, she actually says it in there,
Okay. So
how to
then I'll
word it. That we allow you to,
update your.
provide tools and resources for
And it all falls under communication.
connection, emergency communications and.
Mhm.
All of that's under emergency, because that's your emergency part, that's your safety plan, that's your,
Yeah.
your, having a QR code to where they can link it, that's having the student handbook, all of that is under communication.
I can wordsmith it and send something to you that's
Okay.
brief, that, jumps off into administrative regulation. Creates and updates a administrative regulation to help the
Okay.
community. I'll send it to you. I'll think about it and.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank
I think I need another coffee.
Um,
Okay, sorry.
I wanted to lift up before we move on, what you just said doesn't currently exist in the policy and we should add it there as well.
About creating a.
It just says teachers, administrators and school staff shall receive training. It doesn't say the board directs the superintendent or designee to provide the training. So the
Oh, okay.
accountability is missing. So
Okay.
on the policy, you might want to.
Else would do it, but.
Right, but I'm saying, if you wanna make sure that it's held to,
Okay.
it probably should be stated. You got that, Rosa? So just the superintendent or designee shall provide annual training, and then it leads into that.
Okay,
Okay.
I think maybe that's a formula that we need for all of our policies, what, who, by when.
Mm.
So if
Yeah.
we have what we want, who we wanna do it, and by when.
Yeah.
Then it makes accountability and evaluation a lot easier, because then you know who to pinpoint, because then the superintendent says, I tasked this to Booker.
Yeah.
And then Booker says, I tasked the administrators to make sure that they're set, so it can be a clear line of
Yeah.
where we're following.
Makes sense.
okay, is there public comment on this item?
There's no problem.
Okay. Alrighty, moving to 6116, classroom interruptions. I did not, what I captured was from trustee Smith Folds about recordings, not in the classroom, so the law very clearly states.
Was that under classroom interruptions or visitor policy?
Under visitor.
That was under visitor.
Oh, it was under
policy.
visitor, okay. So then on classroom interruptions, I did not capture anything on that, so that can, I guess, go as it's written unless anybody sees anything right now.
No, there's no feedback.
Is there public comment on classroom interruptions?
There's no public comment.
Okay, so then on 1250 visitor policy, this was the one where, that this and cell phone, what I think refers both to, video recordings, and the law very clearly states that it's classrooms, but what happens outside of a classroom, hallways and anywhere on school property. And I spent a little time looking, and my interpretation was that classroom means everywhere, but I am 100% not sure of that. So does anybody know?
I did a little bit of research, and, technically, the campus is a space for learning, right? The whole campus, but I think what we were really having a conversation about was, sports events and about,
Halloween parade.
yeah, or like like a parade, right? That's happening, and really those spaces where we're having a public, event, they're public, and so they're public forums, they're limited public forums because they're on our campus, and, there are some protections that, allow us to limit, recordings. They're not as strict as it is in the ed code for classroom instruction. And so some of the research that I did was really around, making sure that, all recordings have to comply with the California's all-party consent law, under penal code. There's also FERPA, right? So when we want to protect students, and so some of the suggestion, that what we might want to consider if we really want to expand this, for visitors at school events in the classroom, again, is more clear, but really any sort of performance, is around potentially consider. Let me see the language here. Visitors at public school events such as athletic games or performances may record from spectator areas if they do not disrupt the event or violate student privacy. Use of drones, live streaming, or commercial recordings may be restricted. The district may revoke recording privileges to maintain the safety and compliance with law. So it gives us a little bit of protection in those spaces, but technically, since it is a limited public event, we can't say no.
And where did you find that?
I did some research around ed code and just reading online. And so if you look at, so for ed code 78907, is what I looked into. I also looked into, it's the privacy protections for FERPA 49061 and 49073. And then, of course, always is approved if it's an accommodation for a student with an IEP or 504.
So I think that we're moving beyond this specific policy. This policy is related to conduct and specifically when students are under the supervision of school staff. That's how we framed it. So when students are under the supervision of school staff is throughout the school day and at events and things like that. Sounds like we're extending it beyond students, which would probably go into our visitor policy, not this one. Because we can't control the conduct of adults. If we want it.
This
This is the visitor policy that we're talking about?
No, this is policy 5131 conduct. That's where the cell phone policy lives.
Yeah,
No,
we
we're
switched-
talking
we
about
switched to visitor
1250
policy.
visitor policy.
In both of.
Misspoke, and then we were talking about, she thought that I had this in the cell phone policy. No, this is in the visitor policy.
Oh, sorry. But. Okay, that one just. isn't.
Recording is referred to in both, I believe.
Oh, okay, I thought we had moved on to the conduct. So they're on the 1250. Sorry about that,
That's
okay, all right.
I
And then I
think-
withdraw that.
I think one of my issues is when this popped out with me is twofold. One, how tight are we on that form that we fill out that says, yes, I want my child recorded, or no, you cannot use my child's image, right? My child cannot, there's that form that we fill out, that technology form or whatever it is, right? That's one issue. I think that we have to tighten up on that, because there's no way that we really enforce that. Because people come in and they snap pictures all the time and you don't check and see. I've rarely seen a teacher say, wait a minute. Okay, you can snap everybody, but Billy, I'm gonna put something here so you know not to snap Billy, right? That's one thing. The second thing is if we have an event like kindergarten promotion.
Yeah.
Cameras are out. People are
Yeah.
videotaping it. If we have the Halloween parade, we
Yeah.
know that people are videotaping it at high school and rallies, people are videotaping. So I guess my question is, if the whole school campus is considered a classroom, because there's outdoor learning, there's learning, we say everything is learning. Then what is the parameters around videotaping? Is it the principal saying, sending out, hey, your Halloween parade is this Friday, remember, no mask, no weapons, and there's gonna be video recording, so please ensure that if you don't want your child video, that you take the necessary precautions to ensure that that doesn't happen. Remind your teacher that your child is not be videoed or whatever. Hey, there's kindergarten promotion. Hey, remember that our first football game is tonight. Their video recording is allowed, but you have to be responsible with it. Whatever it is that just a comment that we make to ensure that we are in line with our policy? Because it says with the permission of teacher or administrator that you can do that. Or if we're just limited to the classroom, then it's just to the classroom. They can videotape anywhere else on campus. They being visitors can videotape anywhere on campus. And what does that look like? What is that risk? What's that liability? And how does it fall within the policy? Those were kind of my questions around it. And it may be mute, it may not even come up, but if someone looks at this in the handbook or whatever it is, and they're like, well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
why are you videotaping this class party? I didn't give, there was no permission sent out to
Yeah.
videotape the class party, and now my child is on here and
Yeah.
I don't want their likeness.
And to
being
clarify,
shown.
your question is more about visitors to campus that are outside, not staff, right?
What guidance do we give to anyone who comes? I think she's right, and I think that,
Yeah.
that this does need a brush up or a clarification, because back in the olden days, maybe you were snapping a couple of pictures, but now everybody's got a phone
Yeah.
and everybody is putting this stuff online. And,
Right.
personally, I'm personally uncomfortable with that.
If I'm running away from my husband and he doesn't know where I am, and then he's just scrolling something and see her face at Lupine Hills, now he knows where she is. And that is a scary thing, right?
Yeah.
Or if I'm a person that just, my religious, I don't want them videotaped, or I don't want their image on thing, or these all kind of things. Now that you can take a kid's image and then put them somewhere else, you can just remove an image or something, put it on the site that's unsavory. So I'm not saying eliminate it, I'm saying, how are we being clear about it?
Yeah,
What's the
how are you
clarity
being
around
clear
it?
about it? Exactly.
One idea is that that we communicate that, parents are to take photographs of their child only. Like, you're welcome to videotape, you're welcome to photograph, but please be please do not capture images of, children other than your own. And if we set that expectation, then at least we're trying to mitigate that. And if we have a policy that says you can take photographic or video images of your child only, then we're limiting their access to other people's children. Now, will they follow it? But we can try.
But at least we have been clear.
Yes.
We've
Yeah.
been clear. If you don't know or you choose to ignore, that's a different thing, but at least we have something written.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I think it's an excellent,
Yeah.
an excellent point.
And if you have events like the kindergarten promotion, then you simply announce it. Hi, we're getting ready to take a class photo. If you do not want your child in the class photo, please remove them now. And then all the parents can get up there and snap. Hey, we're getting ready. The winter concert is starting. Please make sure you're only recording your child. At the end, we're gonna give you an opportunity to have a full body program or a picture of all the kids. And that's the time where you can remove your child if you don't want them photographed. I know when I visit school sites, I always take the back of their head, because that's what I was trained on. You can take a picture of a kid's back of the head, and I tell the kids, turn around. Adults look at me, if you pay taxes, look at me, if not, turn around, look that way. And
Yeah.
that's just what we've been trained on, and I think that's also part of the training that needs to go in the board handbook or the board conversation, because we do visit sites. Communication knows how to take a picture, I'm assuming communication asks permission or whatever. But as board members, because we put our stuff on Facebook, we need to be trained, take the back of their head. You can take the bottom of their feet, you can take them with their holding up a book, which
Yeah.
we do sometimes, so you can do it, but that's just, again, it's a matter of, if we're looking at these policies, we need to tighten up on some of the things.
I was just gonna add that as we're reviewing this, not for this policy, but, something to think about in terms of training for school staff. Our teachers are now, Class Dojo sharing
Yep.
videos, sharing pictures, and when teachers are sharing good news from the classroom, they don't necessarily show the backs of their heads.
Yeah.
And so we'll probably need to bring back some kind of policy or AR related to teachers
Mhm.
taking these photographic images. I mean, if the parents sign of media release, that's one thing, but to your point, those aren't really monitored well.
They used to
They
be.
used to be.
And it's the same thing with your PTA events. How many times do you get pictures of the walkathon? And
Yeah.
I can tell you that you could use my kid's face on the PTA event, and that's on school campus,
Yeah.
right? So what does that look like? And having a conversation with our PTAs and our PTOs and saying, listen, you can do this, but it needs to be very clear when you send out your fundraiser, or very clear when you're
Yeah.
sending out your walkathon, that a picture will be taken, so kids will know. And the teacher will know, let your teacher know if you don't want your child taken, and that teacher needs to. pull them away.
PTA does have guidance on that.
But again, tighten up, do we follow it?
Yeah.
Like, do we follow it? Because I've never seen it on the fundraiser, that we're gonna take your picture, or we can use your images.
Yeah.
So for this for the 6th, would you be able to write something in visitor policy that also addresses reporting, and then we can come back and look at the other pieces for sharing on Class Dojo and other.
Yeah, because that would be an AR. 'cause
Yeah.
we'd be given direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do public comment in just a second.
Okay,
Okay,
that
so,
makes absolute sense.
okay, so that makes absolute sense. Okay. Is there any more discussion on this? Because we'll go to public comment. Okay, is there anybody for public comment?
Get your
Go ahead.
sir. Your name?
My name is Oscar Lefebvre. So just a quick, just like what she was just saying, like, what if my kid does go to the school? And I don't like my kid to take pictures, but there's a parent who's videotaping my kid. How can we go about that?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, that's what we're trying to get at by
Yeah.
telling parents.
Because it's technically a public place, so you can't tell no one they can't record. Because it's like a penal code. If you say you're a journalist, you still record. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll take care of that. Okay. Okay, got it.
Is there any other public comment online or?
No.
No. Okay. So we're closing out 1250. Anything else? Going once, going twice, going 3 times, done. Okay, moving on to number 2, board policy 5131, conduct cell phone policy. I did not get any feedback from board members. No, okay, so that could come back on August 6th as it is. Is there any public comment on cell phone policy?
Not online.
I looked at your slide presentation and I did like where it says common concern. And then you had a response to what the common concern is and you had research next to what the common concern is. For example, you had, my kid feels like they need to check throughout the day. And then you said research said, but you know, it's not an anxiety reliever, right? It doesn't.
Yeah.
So I think that that's good. Again, the rollout of this.
Yeah.
And the clarity around it is gonna be essential. It's essential for the students to understand that you're not removing, you're creating a boundary, right? But it's not taking something away because if anybody, especially teens or preteens, if they feel like something's being taken away, then it's gonna be a fuck up. If it's a boundary, you have it, put it in your backpack, don't turn it on, you know, it's fine, keep it on, whatever. That's, okay, it's still there. I believe that that's important for kids. I also believe that's important for parents, right? We have all become addicted to this being our third arm, right? So if we are going to create boundaries for that, I think we need to be tender. But I also think that we need to be clear on consequences. And they need to be across the board. Because if a kid at Pinole Valley is getting a different consequence than a kid at El Cerrito High School and a kid at De Anza and a kid at middle school and a kid over here, we are creating the space for bias. And that is what we have to eliminate. So whatever it is, first is a warning, second is a this, third is a this. That is what has to be consistent because we have got to systematize certain things in our district and discipline is one of them. And consequences is one of them, because if not, we are opening up the door for the continuation of zip coded tactics, strategies, resources, whatever. We know that the kids over at El Cerrito aren't gonna get it because their parents are gonna pick up a fuss. But we know the kids in Kennedy are gonna get more punished because their parents would rarely come in and make that fuss. Like, you handle it, you're at school, we'll deal with it, or whatever. These are stereotypes I'm saying, but you understand what I mean, right? So eliminating the zip coded behavior is keeping a tight policy for everybody. I'm complete.
Okay, I don't have anything else to add on that. Good luck.
Thanks.
I'll take it.
No, I think everybody needs to be serious and we need to set we need to set the tenor and tone too, so that when
Yeah.
we're on campuses, those things are away.
Yeah.
And we're not in corners doing the, I think that, it comes from the top, and so we have
Yeah.
to model the behavior and, it's, we can get there, schools are doing it. it's gonna be better for kids. It's
Mhm.
gonna be better for everybody. So, um, yeah, okay, again, do I call for public comment? Can't remember. Is
You
there
did.
public comment
You
on it?
did. There
Okay,
is
so
none.
we're good. Okay,
Can I say one more thing? Please encourage your administrators, and this is just a suggestion, not a direction. Put it on those back to school slides.
Mm.
That's when you have the most captive audience. Most parents come to back to school night. So put it on those back to school sides. Don't be afraid to communicate it out. They need to hear it from you before they hear it from their kid, because when they hear it from their kid, it's gonna be, I can't bring my cell phone to school. That's not what we're saying. Bell to bell, keep it away, right? So it needs to be communication from the district. We already got our back to school brown folders. I know we did in Hercules and it's not in there, but that would have been an opportune place to put, here's our new policy, right? I know we haven't passed it and all that yet, but something like this is coming.
Yeah.
And just what it looks like. I know that at one of the schools, they rolled it out too soon. And the amount, they wrote it out at a music festival, the amount of like, it just changed the tenor of the whole thing because it was very restrictive. And this is not restrictive. This is boundary setting.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
okay, so moving on to the Pandora's box. The Pandora's box of, oh my goodness. Okay, discussion on implications of Supreme Court case Malmuth versus Taylor. So. Yes,
Demetrio asked if this could be tabled, because this was his one that he really wanted to talk about, and I told him that I would request it. Can this be tabled until Demetrio is, I'm sitting in for Demetrio, for those of you in here, trustee Gonzalez Hoy wanted this to be tabled.
so I am not sure. Let's ask. I don't want to have a huge discussion on this. I just want to go over it. I'm not deciding anything right now, but it's very, I think it's very important. I wanted to check if you guys thought it was very important, because on the first day of school, you may have people coming forward saying, I don't want to stop. I don't know. It feels big to me to start the minimum conversation.
When's the next governance meeting?
We don't have one scheduled.
You don't have one scheduled for August yet?
No,
Well,
and it's not,
I just put the request out there. I am his substitute, so I just wanted to make sure that it was out there. He just wanted this to be tabled because I think he has very, clear direction, comment, concern about this. I'm complete.
so would it be acceptable just to read what the CSBA put out so that we're just aware of the many fingers that where this is gonna go?
So I just wanted to add, I understand that the hesitation, but, and because I did know that there was some hesitation to begin this discussion, I did some digging. And I too am worried about starting school without having some kind of direction. While the state of California filed an amicus brief to support the case and try and prevent the Supreme Court from ruling in the way in which they did, the Supreme Court still ruled that we must do this. And if we don't, and I've got my risk hat on,
Yeah.
if we do not comply, then we open ourselves to lawsuits as soon as the first day of school. So the more conversation we can have on this, the better. And also the state of California does not seem willing to give LEA's guidance on how to create a tool or create a process where opt-out is an option. If there is an opinion that we should not do this as the risk manager, I'm gonna tell you that this is an opportunity for people to sue us in the first instance, that there's a lesson that involves something that, for religious reasons, someone may choose to opt out of. So I object to this. We all, I'm sure, object to this, but we can't not implement it unless we wanna be sued and lose. I'm just putting.
So
that
what you're
out
saying is this is gonna be implemented no matter what?
there. No matter what.
Oh,
No matter
yeah.
what, okay.
Yeah,
matter-
it's the law of the
So
land.
this conversation today was intended to do what? Just bring it forward and say,
What I wanted to do, honestly, I would like to read what was in the agenda so that everybody understands the many little pockets that this thing is going to touch. And some of the things that Dr. Moses just said about nobody wanting to like dive into the pool on this right now. So it was really, it will not be solved today. It will not be on the August sixth agenda, period.
So
I
this
mean,
is gonna come back to governance many times.
Many times.
But this is just your introduction to, this is what's going to be in place, no matter what, because we don't have a choice in it. I just want to make sure that his voice has an opportunity to be heard on this, but Posse has such a strong feeling about it. If this is a preliminary read, I'm okay with that, because I'm, y'all gonna do it, you know what I mean? But so I'm just, okay, I just want to make sure that his request was put out, his voice is going to be heard, and it's gonna be come back to governance. For the people at the table, LEA is Local Education Agency. We use a lot of acronyms, but that's what local education agency.
And a local education agency can be a district, or if it's an individual charter school, that could be a local education agency. So it really what I wanted to do was just read what CSBA put out. And I think everybody will see how complex this is, and we could start to just kind of put our hands around the elephant.
Yep.
So on June 27th, the US Supreme Court released its opinion on Mahmoud versus Taylor, which addressed whether parents or guardians must be provided with notice and allowed to opt their children out of instruction regarding LGBTQ plus storybooks on the grounds it violates their First Amendment rights by substantially interfering with the children's religious development. In addition to setting new legal precedent, the opinion has significant policy implications. This email offers an initial assessment of those implications and some related observations. Key takeaways. Mahmoud versus Taylor held that the First Amendment required a school district to provide parents, guardians with notice and the ability to opt their children out of instruction involving LGBTQ plus storybooks. While the court did not hold that the district was prohibited from teaching the storybooks at issue, it held that the district needed to provide parents, guardians with notice of the materials to be taught and the right to opt out. School districts and county offices of education should review board policy 6144 controversial issues, which includes generic opt-out language. It is likely that CSBA's sample board policy administrative regulation 6142.1 sexual health and HIV/AIDS prevention instruction, sample board policy administrative regulation 6142.8 comprehensive health education, and sample board policy administrative regulation 6141.2 recognition of religious beliefs and customs will need to be updated. CSBA is currently reviewing these policies for potential updates. Almost 24 other CSBA sample policies may be impacted. CSBA will continue to analyze Mahmoud to determine whether these sample policies and/or others may be impacted. Mahmoud does not specify how districts and county office of educations are to implement the requirement to provide notice and permit opt-outs. In consultation with legal counsel, districts and county office of educations may want to consider providing notice and offering opt-outs similar to those provisions provided by state law for comprehensive sexual health education and HIV prevention education. Mahmoud and Taylor involves 5 LGBTQ plus inclusive storybooks approved by the Montgomery County Board of Education for children in K through 5th grade in Maryland's Montgomery County Public Schools District. The books were selected because the board felt its English language curriculum failed to represent many students and families in the country. The board directed individual schools to teach the books the same way it would teach any other English language curriculum to assist with mastering reading concepts, and inform schools in the district that there was no planned instruction on gender or sexual orientation. The materials included a book about a child whose favorite uncle marries his male fiance, and a story about a prince and a knight, both men who fall in love and marry. The district initially notified parents where the storybook would be taught and allowed parents to opt their children out of lessons. After approximately a year, however, the notification and opt-out options were removed. Parents of various religious beliefs sued the district seeking an injunction that would allow them to receive notice of such curriculum and the ability to opt their children out. Both lower courts denied the requested relief and the Supreme Court granted review. A court in a 6-3 opinion held the plaintiffs were likely to succeed on their claim and were entitled to a preliminary injunction. Under pre-existing court precedent, the First Amendment free exercise clause provides parents and guardians, collectively referred to as parents in the court's opinion, the right to direct their children's religious upbringing. In Mahmoud, the court found that curriculum materials or the policy that requires their inclusion, which create a threat or an objective danger or undermining a parent's religious belief, impose a burden on the right if there is a threat or objective danger of undermining a parent's religious beliefs. The court will apply strict scrutiny, the highest level of judicial review for claims of violations of the free exercise clause. To reach this standard, the court relied on Yoder versus Wisconsin. All right. Okay, let me skip to initial policy implications. Under California law, districts and county offices of education are required to provide notice and ability to opt out of certain instructional content only in very limited circumstances. Mahmoud appears to significantly expand the type of instructional content for which notice and the ability to opt out is required. However, at least one CSBA sample policy contains language that is generally aligned with Mahmoud and which may be helpful to districts and county office of educations. Additional, CSBA has identified several sample policies that will likely need to be revised. 6144 controversial issues, the sexual health, recognition of religious beliefs and customs, and other policy implications. They list many policies all throughout. So they need to, they're going to continue to analyze it. And then there is a lack of clear direction. So I thought it was just really important just to,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
I don't know what to say.
CSBA stands for California School Board Association.
Association.
So that's when you hear CSBA, that's what the School Board Association is saying.
So they provide just a little bit of education. You can subscribe to their policy services and they help school districts with perhaps what they should say. We take them, sometimes we adopt them as CSBA publishes them. Most of the time we review them and we can tweak them to suit our particular needs, but they give you a framework to the policy and what you should include in it. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to do a kickoff was just how involved this is and to start the discussion on it. Yeah.
I think one of the things that, as I was doing my research, I think really understand, this is a big one.
Yeah.
And really, the way I'm understanding it, this is only pertaining to curriculum that's gonna be taught directly by the teacher, right? Not like spontaneous conversations, not like students, they still have the option to pick a book from the library, but any sort of directed by the teacher, required in a classroom assignment, a planned activity that's whole class. It might also include potentially guest presentations, right, that are whole class, or any sort of school-wide assembly or read aloud. But not include library books, independent student reading. I got it, go ahead. Or any sort of incidental, and am I understanding that correctly? Is that the way you were understanding the email? Because otherwise, the AR and or how this plays out becomes significantly more complicated.
Yes-ish, but I'm not an attorney.
Yeah, so I think
So-
legal counsel, absolutely, but as we sit in a library and I check out the section over here, I think really clearly understanding what we're being asked to do.
It
Really,
makes a difference. If I'm a teacher and I say, okay, everybody bring your favorite book from home and I'm going to put them on the shelf and I'm gonna read
Yeah.
one student's favorite book once a week. If my favorite book is Prince and Knight, then am I not allowed to read that now because of this? Or do I have to send a form to or to parents saying, parents, we we now are going to start our once a week reading. Here are the list of titles. Here's
Yeah.
the date that they're gonna be read. If there's one that you don't like, you may opt your child out from 9:30 to 9:45 when we have our reading your favorite book time. Or is another example as a teacher, another example, one of the opening icebreakers, everybody draw your family. Well, I have two moms. Draw your family, and I'm gonna put it up on the board, so when back to school night, everybody can come see their family. Well, does a parent have the right to opt out? Because I don't want my child to participate in that curriculum activity, because it's led by a teacher, because it may have a picture of two moms on there, and I don't want, the kid can still my kid's gonna stay in the class, but I don't want them to participate in this activity. It can get very sticky very quickly. It can get book reports. Bring in your favorite thing from home, all of these things, if this is the standard that they're wanting us to abide by, I think is intentionally vague, because anybody can sue about anything over anyone. Well, so I think that what, I guess, risk management and the lawyers and all of these things are gonna have to talk about is, where do we stand? Sometimes you take the hit, you take the lawsuit. If you have something that is part of your character, integrity, what you stand for, if you stand, then you stand, right? And what's the point? They came for me and it wasn't for me, so I didn't worry about it. And then they came for them and it wasn't about me, so I didn't worry about it until they came for
you.
what if it comes to now we can't teach Black history? I wanna opt out. We can't teach, I don't wanna have any book in a second language. Don't read any book that has a second language. English is the language of America, and that's what I want. What happens when it keeps knocking on the door? So I think that this is a time to be clear
Yeah.
about where we stand, and then stand 10 toes down on everything. And that may mean a hit, but as your school board, and when we have to listen to risk management, what does that really look like? And is everybody willing to take what that looks like? Because 4 lawsuits can bankrupt a district,
Right,
4 lawsuits at $10 million.
yeah.
So I'm complete.
Yeah, so, the one thing that I did note is that I did go to 6144 controversial issues.
Sure.
Our last update was in 2007. It is very clear that CSBA's sample policy, which was updated in 2017, is more complete. And the one thing that I did note, our policy standing versus CSBA, is that we do not have an opt-out clause in our controversial issues. We may have an opt-out clause under somewhere else,
We have it in health.
but we
Yeah.
don't have it in 6144.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it is safe to discuss the update of 6144 quickly. And that does seem to be something that they're recommending. Everything else, you know, I don't know what to say right now. But I just thought it was really important to
Yeah,
figure out, you're gonna have to have something ready to go.
Yeah.
just in case.
I just wanted to suggest, this one is a heavy one. I think we need to check and get some county guidance to see what's happening with the other districts in our county around this. And I also think that this is something we need to have at least 2 to 3 meetings about before the first day of school. So it was gonna be my request that we schedule a meeting fairly soon to focus just on this. Because to your point, there is an expectation and a lot of risk. And we likely won't have a policy or an AR completed before we start school,
No,
but we need to have direction.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask that we have a dedicated meeting for this in order to discuss and try and obtain some direction while we work out the policies.
okay. We can chat, if trustee Gonzalez Hoy is not available, we can get another trustee to sit in, with his permission. 6144, this is, I think we could review this very quickly. I could send the sample policy to everybody to take a look at. It is time, the last time we did this was in 2007, so every couple of decades, we should have a little update. And that would at least cover the opt-out part. Now, it may, once again, it may be somewhere else and I don't know about it, because you do it for help. So it's gotta be somewhere, but you know, that would at least be a small step forward. I think it's smart to go to the county and see what they're doing. There may be a working group that they've got going that's starting to,
Yeah.
Yeah,
tease this apart.
yeah.
I don't know if you want to check in with legal counsel to figure out, I don't know if it's dollars spent needlessly at this moment. I don't know, you know, the answer to that, but I think obviously we're gonna have to just with the big ruling.
I think if you're gonna talk about board policy 6144 and we don't have a working definition of what's controversial, then I think we're gonna be spinning our wheels, because controversy is subjective. What's controversial to you is not controversial to me, it's not controversial to this person. I think the board with legal advice need to come up with what's the definition of controversial? What metrics do we hold that by? Because again, is it controversial just because it's in the news? Is it controversial because we can assign a color to it? Or this is a blue issue, this is a red issue. What does controversial mean? Because again, if I'm a parent and I'm looking for a way to get you, then it's gonna be controversial to me. You don't have to agree with it, but it's a controversial to me. So I want an opt-out because it affects me. So what does that working definition look like? I think that that would be a good place to start, and that's a board discussion, right? On what, because of, again, the board sets a vision, and WCCUSD, this is what we consider to be controversial. This is our definition of it, and this is what it can be held to, where it's not subjective, but it's objective, like this is it. So that for me, because again, I think if we don't level set, then we're gonna come to this at 3 or 4 different entry points. I'm complete.
Okay, so, let's take public comment and then we can have a little plan of kind of, what the first meeting might look like or what you wanna try and cover. Is there public comment?
There's no one online. Anybody?
Okay, so the follow-up on this is you're gonna check in with the county office. You will work to bring back topics that you think are important for meeting. And maybe a loose generalized plan of how we tackle this.
Yeah, so the other, I'm also gonna reach out to Keenan. I'm
Mm,
sure they have some guidance on this as well, so, I'm emailing Lynn, I'll email, Keenan. Keenan typically checks with legal counsel, so rather than have us incur a bill, let me work through Keenan first, and I'll let you know what I find out.
Okay,
I'll bring it
and
to the
then
next meeting.
6144 controversial issues, I think that's safe to, start with. And then the rest of them, you know, like, based on what Keenan and the county says, maybe.
Sounds good.
Okay, and we'll poll for a meeting. I hope trustee Gonzalez is okay with this conversation. I really felt it was important.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're going to 6173, education for homeless children, first review of revised board policy.
Okay, so we're bringing forward an update to Board Policy 6173, Education for Homeless Children, to address a recent federal program monitoring finding, to ensure that we're in full compliance with the current state and federal law. This revised policy strengthens our district's commitment to educational equity by outlining clear procedures to identify and support students who are experiencing homelessness. And if you look at the attached link, the updates include required use of the state's housing questionnaire at registration, annual staff training and data reporting to the California Department of Education, proactive removal of barriers related to enrollment, attendance, and access to services for students who qualify under this, designation of trained district liaisons to support students and coordinate services, and the integration of outcomes for homeless students into our LCAP when thresholds are met. And so the policy that's attached reinforces also the privacy protections and affirms that students experiencing homelessness must be provided equal access to the full range of educational supports and programs.
Okay.
And so the language included there meets the FPM finding and updates us.
Okay, the one thing I did note is that CSBA has a administrative regulation that goes along with this.
Okay.
Did you review that, or do you want to review that?
We did not review that yet, but we
Okay.
can certainly do so
So was the urgency
about me,
just to update the policy?
so that we can resolve this FPM finding.
Okay.
But certainly we can add that as a next step.
Okay. Any, trustee Smith, Foltz, any questions on?
I don't have a question. Well, I do have a question, not particularly about this, but certain things that we do when we talk about, well, I guess it's in there, what barriers do we make sure that are not? What do we do to make sure there are no barriers for our homeless children, right? For example, we send those progress reports,
Yeah.
we mail them home now.
Mhm.
Well, what do we do for our children who don't have a home address, right? Are we handing them to them and asking them to put it in their backpack? What are we doing in that case? We have a lot of things, a lot of activities that happen so far outside of the school day that we expect people to be able to go home and then come back, go home, eat, come back. But do we have spaces for if you don't have a home to go to, but you want to attend the chess club at 2:00? Well, or 4:30. Is there a place on campus, because campus is still open, that you can stay, do your homework, and then go to chess and be like that? Do we think about, have we sat down and put ourselves in the space of a homeless parent or child and then walk through the day and see where we hit those barriers when we walk through the day of right when they step into the building and right when they leave the building? So we can ensure that we are not having unseen barriers that we just don't even think about, right? So those are some of the things that I would think about when we have those, when we do those fundraisers and we say that the fundraiser can be delivered directly to your home. Well, wait a minute, if I'm doing a spirit wear and I want to get my Lupine Hill spirit wear, but the only way that you can do it is because you go through custom ink and it gets sent directly to your home, not to the school. Do we allow our children and our parents and families who don't have home addresses to use the school's address for something like a delivery or something like, hey, if you're filling out a form? Like, what does that look like? What does it look like when we're having our children apply for high school scholarships? And they say, put a home address down for applying to go to college, and it says, what's your home address? If they don't have one, are we creating spaces for them to say, okay, well, you can use the school address, or there's a box here that you can check, or some kind of navigation and education around, this is how you can still have access to all of the things. When a kid wants to apply for football and they have to fill out that health form, but it has a home address on there. What if they don't have a home address, but we have the health van that can give them the whatever, your body scan or whatever for the year, but your checkup, let's see how often I go to the doctor.
Yeah.
They give you your checkup, but will they still take you if you don't have an address to fill out? So it's those little things that I was thinking about when reading this kind of updated policy. If cabinet or whoever's charged with this can just sit and literally talk through a day, especially because most of y'all are principals and teachers and your parents, and you know how many times you have to put your address down on something. What's the opt out or what's the next thing that we can do? And are we willing as a district to say, yeah, just use the school address? We got you. You know what I mean? There's teacher mailboxes. We'll have a little mailbox here for something that may come that needs that address. And what's that liability or risk look like when we do it? I'm complete.
Yeah, and this policy update safeguards those protections for students, but some of the suggestions you had about really thinking through how to best accommodate absolutely can be incorporated into an AR.
Okay, so I would like you to look at the regulation
Okay.
that goes along with this.
Uh-huh.
I can send it to you, or you should have access to the sample policies. So that would be my follow-up for that. As far as the board policy, I didn't have any
Okay.
comments on it or any. And I guess I could go for August 6th, but the regulation,
Yeah.
we should look at.
Would you like the AR to also be attached on the 6th?
I think it might need discussion.
Okay.
Based on the conversation that we just had here. It is quite lengthy. I'm not sure that it hits exactly what we might want in it. I mean, there's plenty in here. It's very long. But I think that this could be this might be modified to fit our needs, so we should publish it and
Okay.
take comment on it.
Okay.
Is there public comment?
There's no vote.
Yeah, I have a question. My name is Tony Rose. How do you know the child is homeless?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Yes, so it's the parent at registration or there's a process in which you self-designate and fill out a questionnaire that says that I am in transition.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Right, without that GHT.
And then my comments is I'm reading a book right now.
Mhm.
Can you remember this? It's called? What is it called? A Place Called Home by David Ambrose. It's the story of a homeless family. Every page, I'm like with the tissues trying to wipe my eyes away, but he talks about really the importance of community schools and
Yeah.
how school was such a safe place for him and how every school should be a community school because that's the best place to get services.
Yeah,
But he also talks about how broken the system is and that time after time, there were adults, teachers, caregivers, social workers, like just down the line where, you know, they were just left hanging.
Mhm.
It is just.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was eye-opening story. Everybody should read it. So I'm thinking about that.
Yeah. well, and it's so tough because there are a lot of resources that we have for families that are in transition and oftentimes our families don't want to report that they're in transition. It's a very private thing.
Yeah.
And so I think the more that we can do to share the resources and that we're here to support, the more we might see families want to say, okay, this is my current situation. I need, there are safeguards for you.
This also happened in the 90s, so I can see that there's been plenty of movement forward, for sure. But it just,
I think when we think of our community schools, I think that we need to think of what does a community school need to have to provide certain resources? Do our community schools, and this is visionary now, I'm thinking, do our community schools have washer and dryers? Do our community schools have food pantries? Do our community schools partner with local organizations to where they have, because we are a uniform district, everybody forgets that, but we are a uniform district in
Right.
elementary school, right? So the kids are supposed to wear their brown little skirts or pants and their, little polo shirts or whatever. Have we partnered with organizations to say, okay, especially the outgoing fifth graders, give us your stuff. Give us your stuff, we'll wash it, we clean it, and we put it over here. This is what it has. If you outgrow something, bring it to the school. We'll accept the donations for that. We'll wash it, we'll clean it, we'll put it over here. So if we are a uniform school, if there are students that need something, then we have it available to them. And to your point about, we have to remove the stigma of help. Washer and dryers open from 6 to 7. That's before school even opens. Come do what you need to do. The food pantry is open from 7 to 8. Your school starts at 8. The kids already are in there for breakfast because we offer free breakfast and free lunch and free dinner or free snack. But removing the stereotype and the stigma from help is what I think that we need to start doing. My dad used to say, everybody's one paycheck away from being homeless. You miss that one check. So I think that that's something that we can start working towards when we talk about what's the vision of a community school district. So I'm complete.
So yeah, it's a good point. I was gonna actually bring that up. That's what I was gonna ask. What do we do so far as like clothing wise for them? Because there's a lot of bullying that's going around. And fifth grader at that time, it's heartbreaking and I was gonna bring the nutrition as far as breakfast, but you said you guys offer breakfast, so it seems like just a little bit more stuff that we
Yeah.
can do for them.
Yeah, I just wanted to lift up that, the community schools model looks different at every school.
Yeah.
So if you are a school that doesn't necessarily have a large need for supporting families in transition, you may not have that washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to lift up that we need to ensure that our community schools are assessing the need, but also that our families understand that their primary support comes from families in transition.
Yeah.
That's where the funding lives. That's where they understand the rules of how to best support. I know currently our plan with families in transition is we work directly with the shelters.
Yeah.
And then we work with families if they come to us with specific needs to give them things that they may need. That is the only program that is allowed to give gift cards if it's needed for
Mm.
families in transition. But there's a very strict policy on how to do that,
Yeah.
how to monitor it, because gift cards are considered a gift of public funds. So we aren't really allowed to do that,
No.
but there is an allowance for families who have a need, if you can demonstrate the need, which is why we typically distribute those resources to families that are in shelters.
Yeah. Can
Huh.
we keep some information at our front desk? We keep
Yeah,
I know.
information at the front, I know you did
Yeah.
at Aloni.
Yeah,
Or can we encourage our administrators to, when they have those, you know, they have those little pockets with all the little pamphlets
Yeah.
in it, that one is fit families in transition, so they can
Yeah.
know how to access what
Mhm.
is, and what to access that's on the campus.
Yeah.
Because again, I think that being in transition can be subjective too.
Yeah.
I may not be homeless, but I still don't have a budget to buy clothes, right? I still don't have a budget to make sure that they have school supplies or a snack that's required in kindergarten, or they encourage you to have in kindergarten, because at 10 o'clock they do that. So what is available on this particular site? Is it a pantry? Is it,
Yeah.
you know, do we ask parents at back to school night, hey, we have a food pantry, or hey, give snacks to your teacher because they distribute them out to students who may come up to them and need them? Like, what is that communication around it? And I think to your point, every school may be different, but we know every need may be the same. Like the food insecurity is pretty consistent all over WCCUSD. The bullying because of outfits or clothes or not having the right stuff is pretty consistent over everything. So what do we do as a district and as sites to say, this is our standard? Again, it's that idea of systematizing it. Every school site has assessed what their needs are, but every school site has the ability to point you in the right direction and to help in the interim. And how do we use our funds, SSC funds for that? How do we use whatever funds for that? How do we encourage our PTAs to fundraise for this particular person or particular program, not just to fundraise, but hey, we're fundraising for the food pantry, or hey, we're fundraising for the clothes pantry, we're fundraising for that. Again, it's the board setting this arch of, this is what we believe community looks like. Go implement, go forth and implement. I'm complete.
I agree.
Okay, so I think that policy should come forward, the administrative regulation, take a look at it. I think there is room for an administrative regulation in this policy, and I think that what CSBA publishes is a good start, but I think that we can do more on that. Okay, so now we're up to review of upcoming meeting list, additional meetings. We'll check in about August. For specifically Mahmood versus Taylor. And then we're supposed to set a schedule for the rest of the year. Trustee Gonzalez Hoy is not here today. I do want to say we have an awful amount to do, overwhelming. I'm actually would like to propose 2 meetings a month for the rest of the year. So that we can start to make a dent in this. We are woefully behind. And then I don't even know if I can talk about this, but somebody shut me up if I'm off topic, but we have people here. Want to give public comment, and we don't have public comment on the agenda. What do we do?
I think it could be at your discretion.
It could be in my discretion. Okay, do we have public comment? General public comment.
Don't just get your name.
Alonso Torres. Alonso Torres. Do you know when times? Oh, there's no time, right?
Well, don't take a half an hour.
So I had previous, my name is Alonso Torres and I represent Richmond United Soccer Club. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization out of Central Richmond. I came to the last governance meeting to disclose an issue where a 501c3 nonprofit outside of Contra Costa County is essentially using facilities within Central Richmond. A couple of issues are that we have previously submitted reservations for the same field, and within hours, this other organization has been accepted. I have that proof here, and I will provide it to you, Dr. Moses.
I'm
We-
aware.
Oh, you are aware?
We talked about it.
Oh, okay, just because I never got an email back, it's okay. And then I also have proof of the addresses. This organization currently in the West Contra Costa Unified School District system has a Richmond address, but their nonprofit organizational address is actually in Berkeley. We have further proof that different addresses are used in different cities for prioritization. And, yeah, I mean, we are not getting fields in Central Richmond because of it. I also have their numbers as far as the cities that they have, used, or I have the numbers for roster counts for their club for particular cities, which include West Contra Costa Unified School District cities. And they are below 50%, which allows for prioritization as far as facilities and fields. Yeah, and I also have this proof here, and I can provide them. And I am complete.
Is there other public comment? Anything online?
I will. I just wanted to give, you guys have heard from us, so I just wanted to give them a chance to speak before.
You go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all again.
Pretty sure.
My name is Samantha Torres. I'm here as a various youth sports organizer in the community. I mentioned at the school board meeting on Wednesday that the state of California is now getting involved in regulating youth sports because the system is really messed up and it's really hurting our kids. AB 749, authored by Assemblymember McKinnon, finally passed the California State Health Committee. And this bill calls for a study. It's not actually going to implement regulation right now. It's just a study to look at what the landscape of youth sports looks like in the state of California. Some of the things that they're highlighting is how fragmented it is, that there's no communication between municipalities, local governments, community agencies, school districts, okay? It's also a very unregulated. There are organizations that are operating illegitimately and are potentially putting children at risk by not offering fingerprinting for adults to assure that they're safe to be around youth. They're not following guidelines from national and state organizations regarding youth health and safety. For example, we have, I think it's AB 310. Is coming up. AB 310 is a state policy that's requiring all youth sports organizations to provide AEDs. It's called Nevaeh's law. So if I said the number wrong, numbers are not great in my head, despite having been a math teacher. AB 310 states that you need to have AED machines at every practice and every game. And you know, like what I was hearing from y'all, these laws are made without very little guidance, right? So we have to piece together, how do we, as youth sports organizations that are nonprofit, all volunteer, figure out the money and the organization to make sure we have AEDs. I mean, we'll have like 2 or 3 fields practicing at once, you know? So these are kinds of compliance rules that legitimate organizations are considering, right? But if some guy down the street is operating a sports program and has no knowledge or no validation of their, you know, league laws and whatever, then there's no consideration for youth safety that they're required to apply by, right? So there's unregulated, there's fragmented, there's obviously financial barriers. I've come to you several times and I'm really glad to say that the West County Plays initiative, which again, I'm not involved with anymore, but I did help get that going. West County Plays initiative has made youth sports fields affordable again for our community here. So I'm really glad and I'm continuing to support that as well. But financial barriers do still exist. Lastly, I also want to mention the pay-to-play system, okay? Youth sports used to be a formative part of childhood, and now it's just getting out of control. We are professionalizing 6 and 7-year-olds to play sports. We are asking youth coaches to be former professionals or collegiate level players when these kids can barely wipe their own butts, right? And I'm sorry to be crass, but the reality is we need to create more opportunities. And sometimes that means a former NBA player is not going to be coaching your 6-year-old, right? That maybe has to be a mom and a dad, right? So these are all some of the issues that are going to be explored through this Blue Ribbon Committee. I'm coming to you today again, because we need to look at our policies at this district. We have struggled since the pandemic. Community youth sports organizations in Richmond have really struggled to find fields. And I'm actually really glad we have Oscar here because he's also experienced a lot of the same issues we have, right? And it actually forced him to look outside of Richmond to be able to support his programs. So we're all struggling, and this district could have come together and helped us fix this, have conversations, talk about these. Instead, we're finding that these policies that are meant to prevent bias from influencing how our facilities are operated are not doing their job. These policies exist in ink, but they don't exist in practice. And that's what the governance meeting, right? This is what we talk about, right? But if your staff isn't doing it, if your staff doesn't understand what they're doing, and if there's no supervision, because honestly, that's what I'm seeing a lot is there's no supervision. When policies change or when policies need to be enforced, who is telling people, who is assuring that these policies are being abided by on a local level? Lastly, the last thing I will say, it's been 169 days since I've submitted a public records request. Now, I like that there, among the conversation, there was a consideration about the liability of not complying with certain laws. Transparency, sunshine laws are some of those considerations as well. And I'm not I don't understand. I work in state government. I don't understand why this hasn't been prioritized. Transparency laws are a key fundamental part of our democracy. And we can make all the excuses about short staffing. We can keep talking about short staffing and how pervasive it is in so many aspects of our operations. But the reality is we are all still responsible for complying with transparency laws, despite that. Okay, I am done. Thank you.
Dr. Moses, can you look into the PRR?
I'm looking at the request log now.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I'll address some of the issue. I'm a resident, I'm here as a resident of Richmond. I've lived there for 30 years. My job is I run a nonprofit in Richmond, and I believe I'm the person on that she's concerned about. However, we have opened up our doors. The issue that Samantha's brought up, we have addressed in a different way. We have over, I think, 900 recreational players, which means that every child gets 50% playing time. We have opened it up to, I think, including Richmond and all the surrounding community, for those kids to play with us regardless of where they're from. Second, we have a board that's totally independent of our organization. And we adhere to AB 506. And we have to make sure that every single coach, whether you're a coach, team manager, anyone that comes in contact with kids, have to be certified as a mandatory reporter. So we do all the requirements because we're in the kids' business. In terms of fields, there are fields available in each cities. I believe that in being a resident of Richmond, I know that the school district offer a huge amount of fields. It all depends on what you qualify as a field. I know in Berkeley, we have gone as far as demanding that the city cut the grass field. I have a staff that I have to pay to paint the field. And at times we have to, if you go to my truck right now, I think I have a shovel in my car. So if there's a hole, I fill it because we're in that business. We're not asking for perfection. We're asking for access for kids. And I totally agree with Samantha. I hate the pay to play. The whole design of the youth sports right now is designed to suck money out of parents' pocket. There's no difference between the grass you're paying on that a recreational kid is paying probably $300 for, and the same grass that supposedly a travel kid competitive is playing $2,000, $3,000 for. But we can convince you that your child's getting the best, so therefore you'll pay more money. And that's part of the problem that Samantha and I probably have an understanding of where things are changing. I know that because I live in this community, I've spent a lot of time wanting to improve Richmond. I live in Richmond since 89, 90, when it was quote unquote the murder capital of the world. Of course, and I can tell you a story of where I live and what has happened. If you drive to come to, I live in the Marina, but if you get off at 23rd Street, there's a chain link fence there. There's a reason why that chain link fence is there. Over the course of, I think, like 6 months, through gang initiation, they were shooting people coming, just stopping to go home. So I've been through all of that stuff. My background is I come from a single mom who worked as a maid, who came here as an illegal immigrant. I just happened to get a scholarship, went to a good school, and decided what I want to do differently. I want to invest back in our community. My organization is a nonprofit first that runs a soccer club. So we have an independent board that determine our fiduciary responsibility and hold our board, myself and my staff accountable. We are not in Richmond to take anything from Richmond, but we're in Richmond to support the groups that are trying to do something differently. We support 2 groups in Richmond. And when we say support them, we are their fiduciary sponsors. So we help them, that they're fully 501c3. We file their paperwork for them. We help them get the guidance to get official. So Albany Berkeley Soccer Club is not in that space to run that organization. They need guidance to be the administrator. So that's what we do. And our job right now is to get them to be independent so we can step back and move away. We're not there to take anything. We're open to any organization that will work with us. We work with San Pablo Soccer Club. We work with the Richmond Quakes, Richmond Acton River Village. We've even had Samantha's group play with us because we're a part of a community. We're so tight in it. I was looking at the map the other day and realized that Albany and Richmond share the border. Ellsworth is not in that mix, although it seemed like it. So for us, having an open space where kids can flow back and forth is what makes this community work. If we have 600 kids in Richmond, our organization pretty large. I think we have 1,800 kids last count in our spring. And if we have 400 or 500 Richmond kids, because the way it's set up, it doesn't mean that you're gonna have 400, you're gonna have 12 kids on one team. You may have U6, U5, U4. You have to sometimes balance that off. And an example is if you look in Albany have an initiative for their girls program. But we may have 100, maybe say 100 girls. But not all of them can be on the Albany field. So we made an agreement that we'll switch out the Albany girls with the Berkeley girls to make sure that we have the field utilization as high as possible. So on paper, it may seem like the rules being violated, but in the spirit of the law and to make it work for the community, it works. That's all I have to say about this issue. I want to say I really appreciate what you guys were discussing. I learned a lot. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the nuances of things because we're in the kids business And the picture taking situation that you guys are talking about, we see it all the time. And I mean, we've had, hey, we're gonna take a picture right now. Do not do this. And people get upset. Some kid walking around like, stop. And it creates a lot of drama. But so the conversation you're having it at a higher level than we are because you're doing more talking to kids. So for me, coming in here was a teachable moment. So I didn't plan on saying anything. I just planned to see how this business worked.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and I'll have questions for you later on, because I do have some serious questions. So I want to thank you very much. And that's my comment on that. In terms of why I get things at my home because sometimes I travel, and we used to have, before COVID, we had a central location where we could drop things. COVID changed, staff changed, a lot of things changed. And so that's how my staff probably use my email. In nowhere are we here to try to sidestep something. It's not, we have too much to lose as an organization. This is our 50th year. Okay, so we've been serving Albany, Berkeley, and 27, I think 20 or 27 other municipalities. So anywhere kids come from, second family, second home, we just serve them. We don't ask them for anything in terms of scholarship. And that's why I asked about the homeless situation. We had a coach that was homeless, and we didn't know that coach was homeless until she says, give me a ride home. And I'm driving and I'm telling me to stop, and she tells me to stop. And I'm looking around where it's like, nobody lives here. So I let her off and I went about my business, and I drove around the block, and that's how I knew. So I am curious about all the things that you guys are going through, because I know we experienced that also. So that's all I have to say about this. And I hope I address the situation, the field usage, and my participation in this community and the kids we serve.
So, my name is Oscar Gutierrez. I am the TOC of the club that's practicing in Richmond, Kennedy High School. I've been coaching for about 12 years. Been running the club, it's about to be 10 years this year. We have over about 500 kids. We never had a field like that, ever, in the 10 years that we played in Richmond. Like she mentioned, we've been bouncing from park to park, playing in parks with holes. You know, kids get hurt, get injured. So, for us, if we lose this field, where those 540 kids are gonna go to? Go back to the streets. So this is what I'm here for. It's like, there's no need to be fighting for fields. You have Richmond High School, she has a field already. Why is there a problem for us having Kennedy? There's no need, you don't have over 700 kids that you need both fields. You can share the field. We can figure this out. All this animosity is creating a lot of chaos for these kids. Now these kids are like, we go here, we go there, we go there. Oh, we hear this, we hear that. We don't need none of that. I'm not here for all that. I'm here for these kids. These kids, 540 kids that I'm worrying about, starting from 4 years old, maybe to 17. Where are they gonna go? Oh, you know what? The city says that we can't have a field no more. Where are these kids gonna go? We come across homeless kids. We give them scholarships. All of our coaches, managers, like you mentioned, they all have to pass a background check. There's no one there that's gonna be dealing with someone's kid, especially not in my time. Everyone has to get a background check. So we help these kids get referee license. They're growing up like homeless, give them jobs. Hey, you wanna help out? Doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna be a pro, or no. Do what you can. We're here to help you. So we try to help with the best that we can. Albany Berkeley helps us out, sponsor us, guides us to the right place. We have our 501c3 already. They're slowly getting everything how we supposed to get it, so we don't have to be coming across this and showing them. And figure out how to just let it go.
All right, thank you to everybody who gave public comment. I'm glad this was interesting to you. Go back the onion a little bit.
No, it's super interesting. I mean, I learned a lot.
All right, and so we have our follow-ups, and I'm concluding at
Before you adjourn, there's two things I would like to say. One, I think that we need to be able to project on a screen, the policies or whatever we're talking about, so people in the room who don't have the agenda or would like, are more visual learners up front will be able to see that, so there can be robust conversation about having that. I think that's one added level of hospitality we could do. I think the second level of, when you guys are looking at your additional meetings and reviewing the list, I think on the list for governance, to bring this back to the agenda, is to talk about what are the policies and procedures that the district have when it comes to community-based organizations and when it comes to 501(c)(k), when it comes to after-school programs, because there's all these different layers to it. We have
shared
so
that last time.
that last time. So I think that again, a follow-up conversation
There is
to
one
that.
time.
I think that that would be beneficial to have that part of it. And the last thing is to always ensure that we have public comment beginning or end, also truncated inside of, like we do at the board meetings, public comment at the beginning and public comment after each agenda item, like we're already doing, but it would be good to have public comment at the beginning. I am complete. And I also think, sorry, I lied. I also think the board needs to be, involved in the conversation about what does the navigation look like when we're talking about not only this particular issue, but all of the ins and outs, because we are such a big district and we have so many different things that happen. Community-based organizations that are at our schools are one. Community-based organizations that happen outside school, but on our property is another one. After-school programs, summer programs, there's all of these things that we need to be able to have an understanding behind and an understanding about the policy and how they work. One thing that I wrote down was address checks. Like, what does that look like? How do we? Yeah, right. So, but don't they have to have it when they submit their thingy? About 50% have to be. Kids at the district.
They have to attest to they have that. We don't collect.
We
that.
don't check it
No,
though.
that's the private information.
Okay.
Have the right to. have
So
it.
that's a good question that I would like to, like,
We went
ask
over
and
that
know
last
that.
time.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm complete.
Okay, and we're adjourned at 10:52. Everybody have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Miss Torres, I just wanted to.